The trigger control is a mental control. Now, the actual technical execution and physical control defines by different manipulations of the trigger. Why we need a different set of manipulation? Well, it depends on the precision of the shot, depends on the difficulty of the shot, and depends on the actual mission that we need to accomplish. How difficult the target is, how precise we need to stay. We will start from the most precise trigger manipulation. Of course, that's the slowest one. We call that staging. Let's say we have a very challenging shot. I'll give you an example. Let's say a 25 yards headshot. Now, that trigger technique, trigger manipulation, is going to allow us to fire multiple shots in acceptable speed, but with high level of accuracy there. So what staging of the trigger is? Actually, there are three stages. The first stage will be, we're going to take the pre-travel, the slack of the trigger. The trigger will be already prepped. Now, the second stage, you add about 80% of the pressure necessary to release the shot. Nothing will happen. And at the end, very fine, we'll add that 20%. Very deliberately we'll add that 20% of the pressure necessary to break that shot. What that will prevent any tendency to slap that trigger. It will be very defined and precise final portion of the trigger pull. Now let's go live fire. We have a set of different sizes of targets, and I'm going to shoot the smallest one. That's 1 inch circle, and I'll shoot it from about 5 yards away. Now, such a difficult target requires a very precise trigger manipulation, so we're going to use staging. That means I'll take the slack, I'll add 80% of the pressure necessary, and then very deliberate we'll add the rest of that 20% to break that shot. Build a stance, or build a grip, I'll focus on staging of the trigger. Present the gun with the sights aligned by feel, take the slack, take the 80, 20. Now the shot is a little bit high, so we'll pay more attention about the sight alignment. That's not a bad trigger pull, but the placement of the sight was a little bit off, a little bit high. I'll pay that very close attention, and I'll apply that 80, 20. Take the slack, 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 80, 20%. Now, a laser beam, and a little bit of magic here. In order to avoid any tendency of anticipation, to avoid such kind of phenomenon, what we'll do, we'll modify a little bit the muzzle flip control. Instead of totally rely to the spring steel effect, what we'll do, we'll relieve the brain, and we will allow actually that recoil to happen more. We'll relax a little bit the elbows, so we'll let the gun pop a little bit. At the moment that you break the shot, calmly, mentally calmly, I'm going to micro steer the gun back or place it on the target to ensure that we have a proper sight alignment. And again, we're going to apply the same trigger manipulation. Staging. Take the slack, 80, 20. It's supposed to look like this. Present the gun on target. Take the slack, 80, 20. Micro steer 80, 20. Micro steer 80, 20. Micro steer 80, 20. Micro steer 80, 20. Now, as you can see, we can speed it up the entire cycle of multiple shots, and using that muzzle flip control combined with the staging of the trigger will give us the ability to deliver multiple shots with surgical accuracy and very acceptable speed. We are already familiar with the second trigger manipulation. That's the prep press. We use that trigger manipulation to be successful with 1 inch stripes there. And it's just 2 stages. You're taking the slack, you're prepping the trigger, and then we go with 1 pull of the trigger. Now, that actual pull of the trigger, how we need to do that pull. Only finger moves, how? Straight back, how? With constant speed and minimal effort. Exactly. Now, knowing this, mouse, let's face to the target. Now we can choose one of these two middle targets there at the middle, and such kind of target, it's medium difficulty. That means it can require a prep press, more or less. You will engage these targets with a significantly higher rate of speed, but still we need to preserve the desired accuracy there, right? So let's give it a try. Face to the target, Volt make ready. Now here we can rely completely on the spring steel effect, stiffening the wrist. You don't need to micro steer back. The target is big enough, so we'll be successful there. It's just two stages. Take the slack and actual pull. Take the slack, actual pull. Ready, and go. And go. One presentation, multiple shots. Beautiful, beautiful. Safety on and reholster safely. Now, the very last trigger manipulation, it's known like slapping, but we don't like that term. We prefer the zipper pull. Why? Because again, we're following all the principles of the trigger control. The only difference right now is that we are not prepping the trigger, you're not taking the slack. Actually, we're pulling the trigger with one consistent motion all the way through the slack to the actual trigger pull. Most of the times when you shoot very fast, very close targets, subconsciously we are slapping to a certain degree. And some people, they can do great with slapping, and some just stick with other techniques. There are other manipulations. It's totally individual. So I personally like to combine them. Depends on the difficulty of the targets. And they're great shooters, world champions, they stick only with the prep press. Guys, experiment and find out what works best for you. So Miles, we have the biggest target over there on the very left. Now that target is good enough to try we call it the zipper pull technique. It's constant speed all the way through the slack to the actual trigger pull. Again, we're following the principles. Only finger moves straight back with constant speed and minimal effort, but there's no preparation, right? All right, go on. Present the weapon and slap and constant speed, constant speed. We try to speed up a little bit to see how it happens. Pretty good, pretty good. All right, safety on and reholster. What do you feel there? How you feel? Definitely,
it's not as precise. There's more wobble room, as you can see with the target. But following, steady, straight to the rear, minimal effort, and basically everything, all the little concepts, and you can see it's actually working.
You have all that knowledge about the different types of trigger manipulation, right? You know the principles of the trigger control already. Now, using all that knowledge, you need to engage all the targets, one shot only, as fast as possible, as fast as you can still stay successful. You can combine different trigger manipulations in order to be successful, or you can stick with your favorite one. The choice is all yours. Different shooters, different styles, different choices. So let's give it a try. You're going to use that same target. You start from the compressed low ready position, and you can start from the smallest to largest or vice versa. The choice is totally yours. Now get ready and up. Beautiful. Nice, nicely done. Safety on and holster. So tell me what you just did. Did you combine them or you stick with one type of trigger manipulation?
The first shot there, I focused, it was kind of like a hybrid where I literally used the zipper, but I did feel the wall, but I just went right through it. So I used the zipper in the first, and then I used the prep press for the other 3 targets.
All right. Usually what I do when I'm shooting that drill, yes, I'm using the zipper more or less on the first target. I'm not a slapper. I just need to admit that. I prefer the prep press. But that's a big target enough so you can be a little bit less aware about how correct you're with the trigger pull. You can afford to have a bigger margin of error, right? The next 2, I definitely prep press, and the last one I focus and I using a staging, using the micro steering technique as well. That I find out by time and experience that works the best for me. Now, you ready for a challenge?
Sure.
I will challenge you with the diminishing dot TPC challenge.